Why the brand change now is I just felt it was time, because I felt like there was an underserved part of the market, and the mass affluent, which are people between say $2 and $20 million in liquidity. What I was starting to realize was this was a very underserved market. What I was starting to realize is, and more I talked to people in that marketplace, and the more of those clients we started to attain, the more I started to realize they were getting the same things people who had $5,000 were getting. The same packaged products, the same proprietary models of mutual funds and ETFs and things like that. They weren't getting any additional services. They weren't getting balance sheets built. They weren't doing any tax harvesting at the end of the year. They weren't benchmarking their wealth to other people in their wealth category. Things like, well, what does a person with $5 million typically have in a primary residence, or extra real estate, or in stocks, or in bonds, or in cash, or in their business for that matter? So I started to realize there was a real deficit of services there. You know, if you look above 50 million, that's where you start to see Northern Trust and Goldman Sachs and people like that, and they're getting lots of those services, although I might argue they're not getting what they deserve. But again, I noticed for what seemed like an awful high fee, really standard retail pricing, folks were simply just getting products. Here's a product, we think it might do well, we don't know for sure. So I thought, you know, we've built out our practice to be a family wealth office. We want to talk to your adult children. We want to talk to you about your estate planning. Not that we do estate planning, nor do we do accounting, but it's important that we have conversations with those folks. I have hired a CFA candidate to help me model portfolios and backtest ideas, not just here's the mutual fund of the day. We build our stock portfolios, we build out bond portfolios in an effort to do two things. The first thing is reduce costs for the client, and the second thing is so that we can monitor the performance rather than just hoping some mutual fund manager we've never met is doing the job. This is not to pick on mutual funds. Certainly there are opportunities to use them, especially if you're just starting out in investing. But again, the reason I wanted Edgewater Family Wealth to become the name was, number one, Kieran had kind of run its course. My junior likes to joke, nobody could say it anyway. So Edgewater, as everybody knows, is the main drag in College Park where we have our practice. But it's also, to me, kind of a Florida native name. I'm a Floridian, fourth generation Floridian actually, so kind of proud of that. So that was really the essence of, I wanted the families that have their wealth with us in that category. 2 to 20 million is typically the net worth of the clients that we're talking about. Not all our clients are there. We're trying to get them all there, but they're not all quite there. But that is predominantly the folks we're dealing with. I just felt like they were being underserved. They were getting sold things that was purely focused on return from last year or the year before, rather than really building thoughtful models, really doing the planning, really understanding what is the goal. The goal is not to earn more than the S&P. Yeah, that's nice and that'd be great if it happened, but the goal is to be successful. The goal is, I'm 60 years old, I want to retire in 3 years, I'd like to live on 200 grand a year, I'd like to travel twice a year, I'd like to leave this much to charity, to my university, I'd like to put my grandkids through college, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is success. Success isn't a return, because candidly, if you look like, for example, from 2000 to 2010, that was the decade of zeros, right? Basically, we earned almost nothing on the S&P 500. So if your goal was to keep up with the S&P 500, I would assume the rest of your goals just fell apart, right? Being able to spend, being able to put children through college and things like that. So we have to be able to provide for success, not to a return. Yes, that's part of it, but really to the goals, needs, hopes, dreams, and desires of people in that $2 to $20 million category. Frankly, I think they're well underserved, and I think it's our sweet spot, and I think it's what we do very well. So that's why the name Edgewater Family Wealth.